My name is Pamela Surd. I'm 34 and last Saturday, a security guard told me I wasn't good enough to use the front door of my own hotel. My sister Natalie had specifically requested that I be redirected to the service entrance, the one for delivery, trucks, and kitchen staff. My mother stood 5 meters away watching the whole thing. She smiled. Not a nervous smile, not an I'll fix this smile. A real genuine smile of satisfaction. They had no idea that 6 months ago, I'd quietly purchased the Sterling Hotel. They had no idea that the engagement party they'd spent $85,000 planning was happening on my property. And they definitely had no idea what was about to happen when the hotel manager walked up to me and said, "Good evening, ma'am. Is everything to your satisfaction?" Before I tell you how that night ended, please take a moment to like and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy this story. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is there. Let me take you back to the beginning, to the moment I decided I was done being the invisible daughter. I found out about Natalie's engagement party through Facebook. Not a phone call, not a text, a public post with a photo of her 14-carat ring. And the caption, she said, "Yes, celebration details coming soon." 3 days later, my mother finally called, but not to invite me. "Pamela, I assume you saw the news." Her voice carried that familiar edge, the one she reserved specifically for conversations with me. "The party is Saturday at the Sterling." "Where?" "Something appropriate, and please don't do anything to embarrass your sister." "No, how are you?" "No, we'd love to have you there." "Just instructions and warnings." I thought about Thanksgiving 2 years ago. My mother had introduced me to her book club friends, while Natalie stood nearby in her designer dress. This is Pamela, my younger one. She's still figuring things out. I was 32, I owned 2 hotels, but she introduced me like I was a college dropout, living in her basement. The thing is, she didn't know about the hotels. None of them did. Not because I was hiding it, but because no one ever asked. Every family dinner, every holiday call, the conversation always circled back to Natalie. Natalie's promotion, Natalie's new apartment, Natalie's perfect boyfriend, Bradley from the Harrington family, and me, I was background noise. What my mother didn't know, what none of them knew, was that 6 months earlier, I had finalized the purchase of the Sterling Hotel, the same hotel where my sister was about to throw her lavish engagement party. I hadn't planned it that way. When I acquired the Sterling, I didn't even know Natalie was dating Bradley. But fate, it seems, has a sense of humor. I stared at my phone after my mother hung up. She hadn't even asked if I could come. She just assumed I had nothing better to do. The favoritism didn't start with Natalie's engagement. It started the day I was born, 2 years too late, apparently, to matter. When Natalie turned 25, my mother gave her $40,000 for a down payment on her first apartment. "You're building a life," Mom had said, beaming. "This is an investment in your future." When I turned 25, I asked for a loan to buy a small bed and breakfast I'd found upstate. 10 rooms, needed work, but I saw potential. My mother laughed. "Pamela, that's not a business plan. That's a fantasy. Natalie knows how to build a life. You just drift." I took out a bank loan instead, 18% interest. It merely broke me that first year, but I made it work. Then I bought another property, then another. Nobody asked how, nobody noticed. When my marriage fell apart 5 years ago, I made the mistake of calling my mother for support. David had cheated. I caught him. The divorce was brutal. Her response still echoes, "I told you, Pamela, you don't know how to choose people. Natalie would never let this happen to her." I stopped calling after that. I wasn't bitter anymore. I was just tired. Tired of proving myself to people who had already decided I wasn't worth watching. My phone buzzed. An email from Marcus, the general manager at the Sterling. "Miss Surd, I need to inform you about the engagement party booking this Saturday. The client has made some unusual requests regarding guest access. Please advise at your earliest convenience." I opened the attachment. My chest tightened as I read. There was in black and white a list of names and instructions. My name was on that list. The email from Marcus contained a guest management document. 3 names flagged for alternative entrance routing. The first 2 were former colleagues of Bradley's, something about a business dispute. Understandable. The 3rd name was mine. Next to it in Natalie's handwriting, scanned into the document. Pamela Surd, sister of bride, redirect to service. Entrance if she appears. Do not allow through main lobby under any circumstances. I read it 3 times, then a 4th. My own sister had put me on a list with people her fiancé was actively avoiding. She'd classified me as someone who needed to be hidden, kept away from the important guests, the real family. Marcus had added a note. Miss Surd, I found this request highly unusual given your relationship to the property. Should I intervene? Please advise. I sat in my office watching the city lights flicker through the window. The Sterling stood somewhere. In that maze of buildings, my building, where my sister was planning to humiliate me in front of 200 people, I had options. I could cancel the event. I could reveal myself before the party and watch Neely scramble. I could simply not attend and let them think they'd won. But none of those options felt right. If I didn't go, they would continue treating me as invisible. If I reacted publicly, they would call me dramatic, unstable, proof that I was exactly who they always said I was. But if I attended and let the truth reveal itself naturally, I typed my response to Marcus. Do not change anything. Let them proceed exactly as planned. I will handle this personally. His reply came within minutes. Understood, Miss Surd. I'll be on standby. I closed my laptop. Saturday was going to be interesting. I called Daniel the next morning. We'd been friends since college, back when I was just a girl with big dreams and no money. Now he was my attorney, but more importantly, he was the one person who'd watched me build everything from nothing. They put you on a blacklist? His voice was sharp with disbelief. At your own hotel service entrance, like I'm delivering the shrimp. Pam, this is insane. Just tell them you own the place. Watch them gravel, and then what? I stared at the ceiling of my apartment. They apologize because they're scared, not because they're sorry. Nothing changes. I'm still the daughter they tolerate. Daniel went quiet. Then what do you actually want? Revenge or closure? The question hung in the air. I'd asked myself the same thing 100 times since reading that email. I don't want revenge, I finally said. I want them to know that I'm not who they think I am. I want to stop shrinking myself for people who never made room for me. That's not nothing, Pam. No, it's not. He said, if you're doing this, you need backup. Want me there? I can come as your +1. Old college friend catching up. That works. And I'll bring some documentation just in case someone demands proof. He paused. You know, this could blow up their whole night. I know. And you're okay with that? I thought about every dinner where I was overlooked, every achievement that went unnoticed, every time my mother looked through me like I was glass. I'm okay with not hiding anymore, I said. Whatever happens after that is their choice. Daniel agreed to meet me at the Sterling on Saturday. I hung up and looked at the dress hanging in my closet. Simple, black, unassuming, perfect. Saturday arrived faster than I expected. By 7 o'clock, the sun had dipped below the skyline, painting the Sterling's facade in shades of amber and gold. I'd chosen my outfit carefully. A simple black dress, elegant but understated. No diamonds, no statement pieces, just pearl earrings my grandmother left me. The kind of outfit that says I belong here without screaming for attention. The valet recognized my car, but said nothing. I'd asked Marcus to keep my attendance quiet. As far as the staff knew, I was just another guest tonight. The main entrance glowed with warm light. Through the glass doors, I could see the lobby. Crystal chandeliers casting rainbows across marble floors. Guests in evening were drifting toward the ballroom. Laughter echoed. Champagne flowed. My sister's perfect night. I straightened my shoulders and walked toward the front door. That's when he stepped forward. A security guard in a dark suit, earpiece visible, clipboard in hand. Young, professional, just doing his job. Good evening, ma'am. Your name? Pamela Surd. He scanned his list. I watched his finger stop. His expression flickered. Confusion, then practiced neutrality. I'm afraid you'll need to use the service entrance, ma'am. Excuse. Those are my instructions. The service entrance is around the back through the kitchen corridor. I didn't move. Can I ask who gave those instructions? The event organizer. He shifted uncomfortably. I'm sorry, ma'am. I'm just following protocol. Protocol? My sister had created a protocol for keeping me out. I looked past his shoulder through the glass doors into the lobby, and that's when I saw her, my mother, standing just inside, looking directly at me. Our eyes met across 15 feet of marble and glass. She didn't move, didn't wave, didn't come to help. She just smiled. That smile, I'd seen it before. When Natalie won awards in high school, when she graduated summa cum laude, when she announced her engagement, that smile of pure, undiluted pride, but she'd never once directed it at me until now. And this wasn't pride. This was satisfaction. My mother watched her youngest daughter get turned away at the door like uninvited catering staff, and she was pleased. This wasn't an oversight or a miscommunication. This was deliberate, coordinated. She wanted this to happen. 10 meters behind her, I could see Natalie near the ballroom entrance, radiant in cream-colored silk, accepting air kisses from guests. She glanced toward the lobby, toward me, and I caught it. The smallest flicker of acknowledgement, a quick look. Then she turned back to her admirers, laughing at something someone said. The security guard cleared his throat. Ma'am, the service entrance. A bellhop near the concierge desk had noticed the exchange. I recognized him, Thomas, who'd been with the hotel for 3 years. His eyes widened when he saw me, and he started to move forward. But the security guard caught his attention, gave a subtle shake of his head. Thomas stopped, looked at me with something like apology, then looked away. I stood there for 5 full seconds. They felt like hours. My mother finally broke eye contact, turning to greet an arriving couple with warmth and laughter, as if nothing had happened, as if I hadn't just been publicly humiliated while she watched. The security guard waited, increasingly uncomfortable. I could have said something, could have demanded to speak to the manager, could have revealed everything right there. But not yet. Fine, I said quietly. I'll use the service entrance. I turned and walked toward the side of the building, my heels clicking against the pavement. Let them think they'd won. The service entrance smelled like industrial cleaner and fresh bread. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, a harsh contrast to the crystal-draped elegance 50 feet away. I pushed through the heavy metal door and entered. The kitchen corridor, stainless steel counters stretched in every direction. Steam rose from simmering pots. The controlled chaos of a 5-star kitchen in full swing. Then silence. One by one, staff members noticed me. A prep cook paused mid-chop. A server carrying a tray of champagne flutes froze. Chef Rivera, who'd been barking orders at his team, went absolutely still. Miss Seward. His voice was barely above a whisper. We weren't expecting you to. It's fine, chef. Please continue. Nobody moved. I realized they'd all seen the guest list. They knew my name was on it, and they knew exactly why I'd come through. This door instead of the main entrance. Really? I said, keeping my voice calm. Tonight, I'm just a guest. Carry on. Chef Rivera nodded slowly. The salmon is exceptional tonight, Miss Surd. Rivera's special preparation. I'm sure it will be perfect. The kitchen gradually resumed its rhythm as I walked through, though I felt every eye following me. A dishwasher nearly dropped an entire rack of glasses. A pastry chef whispered something to her colleague. I reached the service door that led to the ballroom's back corridor. Through the small window, I could see the party in full swing. Crystal chandeliers, elegant guests, my sister at the center of it all, Bradley's arm around her waist. 200 people, celebrating Natalie's perfect life. I allowed myself a small smile, not bitter, not angry, patient. I straightened my dress, took a breath, and pushed through the door. Time to join the party. The ballroom was breathtaking. Even knowing every inch of this hotel, even having approved the renovation budget myself, seeing it transform took my breath away. Gold-draped tables surrounded a central dance floor. A string quartet played Vivaldi in the corner. The backdrop. Behind the main table writ NB Forever, an elegant script. $85,000. That's what this night cost. I knew because the invoice had crossed my desk. My phone vibrated. Daniel in position. Bar northeast corner. Got what you asked for. I typed back. Hold for now. Want to see how far they'll go. Copy. But Pam, don't wait too long. You deserve to be seen. I slipped my phone back into my clutch and scanned the room. My mother was holding court near the gift table, accepting compliments on behalf of her beautiful daughter. Natalie floated between guest clusters, Bradley dutifully at her side. Nobody had noticed me yet. I'd entered through a side door, blending with returning staff before slipping along the wall in my simple black dress without the sewer name preceding. Me, I was invisible, exactly as they wanted. I spotted Marcus across the room. Our eyes met briefly. He started to move toward me, instinct probably to check if his employer needed anything. I gave the slightest shake of my head. He stopped, nodded once, retreated to his position near the service corridor. A few feet away, my mother was telling someone about Natalie's accomplishments. Top of her class at Columbia, Bradley's family was so impressed. The Harringtons don't accept just anyone, you know? She gestured expansively, her champagne sloshing slightly. We're so blessed. Natalie has always known exactly what she wants. I took a glass from a passing server and found a spot in the shadows. The night was young. Marcus was struggling. I could see it from across the room. The way he kept glancing in my direction, then at Natalie, then back at me. He'd been general manager of the Sterling for 8 years, long before I acquired the property. Discretion was his specialty, but this was testing him. He approached Natalie's group once, offering to check on catering arrangements. I watched my sister wave him off without looking at him. Too engaged in conversation with one of Bradley's aunts to acknowledge the staff. When he finally found an excuse to pass near my corner, he leaned in without breaking stride. Miss Seward, this situation is highly irregular. Say the word and I can. Not yet. But, ma'am, I know what they did, Marcus. I also know what I'm doing. He paused, professionalism wearing with loyalty. The kitchen staff are concerned. Word travels. Tell them I appreciate their discretion. And Marcus, I caught his eye. When I need you, I'll let you know. Until then, treat me like any other guest. That's precisely what I cannot do, ma'am. Then treat me like a guest who happens to own the building. A flicker of something, respect maybe, crossed his face. He nodded once, then continued his rounds. From across the ballroom, my mother noticed Marcus speaking to someone in the shadows. Her eyes narrowed, trying to identify the figure. I stepped slightly behind a floral arrangement. She shrugged and returned to her conversation. Just another anonymous guest. Nobody worth her attention. I checked my watch. The toast would begin soon. Natalie would take the stage, bask in the spotlight, probably make some speech about family and love and gratitude. I wondered if she'd mention me. I already knew the answer. The clinking of glass against crystal silenced the room. Everyone, if I could have your attention, Bradley's voice carried across the ballroom. My beautiful fiancé would like to say, few words. Applause rippled through the crowd. Natalie glided to the small stage, every inch the blushing bride-to-be. Her dress caught the chandelier light. Her smile was practiced perfection. Thank you all so much for being here tonight. Her voice was warm, confident. This means the world to Bradley and me. She launched into acknowledgments. The Harrington family, Bradley's business partners, her sorority sisters who'd flown in from across the country, and of course my incredible mother. Natalie gestured toward Victoria, who raised her glass with theatrical humility. Mom, you've been my rock, my inspiration. Everything I am is because of you. More applause. Victoria dabbed at dry eyes. I stood frozen in my corner, waiting. I also want to thank everyone who made an effort to be here tonight. Natalie's gaze swept the room, somehow managing to look at everyone without seeing anyone. Family is about showing up, and I'm so grateful for those who truly care. Her eyes found mine for just a moment, a flash of acknowledgement, then away. Some people in this room have overcome personal challenges to be here. A pause, a sympathetic smile. Let's just say not everyone in my family understands the value of commitment. But tonight isn't about that. Tonight is about love, real love, scattered, uncomfortable laughter. A few guests exchanged glances. Ellie Lehner Harrington, seated at the head table, frowned slightly. I felt the words land like stones. My divorce. She was talking about my divorce in front of 200 people, including the family her fiancé came from. My hand tightened around my champagne glass. Still, I didn't move. Natalie finished to enthusiastic applause. Before the noise died down, my mother was already rising from her seat. If I may add a few words, she didn't wait for permission. Victoria Surd never did. When Natalie was born, I knew she was special. My mother's voice carried effortlessly. She'd always had a gift for commanding attention. Some children, you just know, you can see their path stretching out before them, golden and bright. She paused for effect. Several guests nodded along. Raising a daughter like Natalie has been my greatest joy. Watching her graduate top of her class, watching her build her career, and now watching her join one of the most respected families in the city. My mother raised her glass toward the Harringtons. To your wonderful son and to the extraordinary woman he's chosen. Hear, hear, someone called. As she sat down, a woman at a nearby table leaned toward her companion. I thought there were 2 daughters. The question carried farther than intended. A brief hush, my mother heard it. I saw her spine stiffen slightly before she turned with a practiced smile. Natalie is my pride, she said smoothly. Pamela is still finding herself. The dismissal hung in the air. A few guests shifted uncomfortably. Someone coughed. Near the bar, I saw Daniel's jaw tighten. He caught my eye across the room, questioning. I gave a slight shake of my head. Not yet. But someone else had noticed the exchange. Eleanor Harrington was watching my mother with an expression I couldn't quite read. Then her gaze traveled across the room, searching. It landed on me. For a long moment, we looked at each other. Eleanor's eyes were sharp, assessing. She didn't look away. Neither did Natalie found me 20 minutes later. I'd been nursing the same glass of champagne, watching the party from my corner. Apparently, I wasn't invisible enough. Oh, she stopped. In front of me, surprise flickering before she composed herself. You actually came. Congratulations on your engagement, Natalie. Thank you. Her smile was thin. I thought maybe you'd be too overwhelmed. These events can be a lot for some people. I'm managing. Behind her, 3 of her friends had formed a semicircle. Support troops, witnesses. Natalie tilted her head. You know, Bradley's family is very traditional. They value success, achievement. I hope you understand why we had to be selective about the entrance arrangements. I understand perfectly. Good. She sipped her champagne, watching me over the rim. Because tonight is about me, Pamela. My engagement, my celebration. Try not to make it about your situation. I wouldn't dream of it. Wonderful. Another thin smile. And maybe next time consider wearing something a bit more festive. Black is so dreary for a celebration. One of her friends giggled. Natalie turned to rejoin her circle, dismissing me as easily as she'd dismiss a server. Then she paused, looked back. By the way, how did you get in? I specifically told security. She stopped herself, but not fast enough. You specifically told. Them what, Natalie? Her cheeks flushed. Nothing. Forget it. I used the service entrance as requested. For just a moment, something flickered in her eyes. Not guilt. Natalie didn't do guilt, but something close to surprise. Maybe she hadn't expected me to actually comply. Beyond Natalie's shoulder, I noticed Bradley standing nearby. He'd heard everything, His expression was troubled. Natalie didn't see it, but I did. My mother appeared as if summoned. Pamela. Her voice was low, sharp, a word. She guided me to an alcove near the service corridor, away from the main crowd, but still visible. Still public enough that I couldn't make a scene without witnesses. What are you doing here? Attending my sister's engagement party. Don't be smart with me. She glanced around, making sure no one important was watching. You know, exactly what... after everything, you just show up. Was I not invited? Her jaw tightened. This is Natalie's night. Don't ruin it. I haven't done anything, Mom. Good. Keep it that way. She looked at my dress with undisguised disappointment. Couldn't you at least wear something nicer? Something that shows you made an effort? The Harringtons are watching. I won't have you. Embarrass us? I felt something shift inside me. A lock turning, a door closing. U.S., I repeated quietly, who's us exactly? Don't start, Pamela, not tonight. Before I could respond, Marcus appeared at the edge of my vision. His expression was carefully neutral, but I could see the tension in his shoulders. I apologized for the interruption. His voice was formal, professional. We have a situation with the catering that requires immediate attention. My mother barely glanced at him. Handle it yourself. We're in the middle of something. I'm afraid I need authorization from Marcus paused, choosing his words carefully. From management. Then find the management, Victoria snapped. Can't you see I'm speaking with my daughter? Marcus didn't move. His eyes found mine. Miss Seward, he said slowly. May I have a word? My mother froze. Her gaze traveled from Marcus to me and back again. Miss Seward? She repeated. The world seemed to hold its breath. Okay, if you're watching this and thinking, please tell me Pamela does something. I promise we're getting there. But before that, drop a comment. Have you ever been treated like you were invisible by your own family? How did you handle it? And if you're enjoying this story, hit that subscribe button. I have more stories like this coming. Now, let's get back to the moment everything changed. Marcus didn't flinch. Miss Seward, we have the situation with the seafood shipment. His tone was perfectly professional, as if this were any normal consultation. The Atlantic salmon arrived with quality concerns. As the owner, I need your approval to substitute with the king salmon from our reserve. The word dropped like a stone into still water. Owner. My mother's face went slack. Her champagne glass tilted dangerously in her grip. I'm sorry. Natalie had appeared from nowhere, her voice sharp. What did you just call her? Marcus turned with the calm of a man who had served diplomats and dictators. I addressed Miss Pamela Seward, the owner of the Sterling Hotel. Is there a problem? Silence. Complete, absolute silence. Around us, conversations had stopped. Nearby guests turned to stare. The string quartet played on oblivious, their Vivaldi suddenly grotesque against the frozen tableau. I kept my voice level. The king salmon will work, Marcus. Tell Chef Rivera to adjust the sauce to complement. Perhaps the citrus reduction instead of the dill. Excellent choice, ma'am. Marcus inclined his head. A small bow nearly imperceptible. I'll inform the kitchen immediately. He retreated. The click of his heels on marble echoed in the silence. I turned back to my mother and sister. Victoria's mouth opened, closed, opened again. No sound came out. Natalie had gone pale beneath. Her carefully applied blush. Her hand gripped Bradley's arm so tightly that her knuckles were white. The owner, Bradley's voice was barely above a whisper. Natalie, did you know? No, Natalie's voice cracked. No, that's not. She doesn't. Somewhere behind me, a champagne glass shattered on the floor. Someone gasped. And for the first time in 34 years, my family was looking directly at me. This is a joke. Natalie's voice was too loud, edged with panic. Some kind of sick joke. She doesn't own anything. Whispers rippled through the crowd like wind through grass. Guests leaned toward each other, eyebrows raised, phones quietly emerging from pockets and purses. I've owned the Sterling for 6 months, Natalie. I kept my voice calm, conversational. You can verify with the county property records if you'd like. They're public. 6 months. My mother finally found her voice. That's impossible. We would have known. Someone would have told us. Who would have told you, Mom? You never asked what? I do. You never asked about my life at all. Victoria's face cycled through emotions, shock, confusion, something that might have been shame before it hardened into defensiveness. This is ridiculous. You're making things up to ruin your sister's night. I'm not making anything up, and I'm not trying to ruin anything. Then what is this? Natalie gestured wildly at the ballroom. Some kind of power play? You wait until my engagement to reveal you own the hotel. How petty can you be? I didn't plan this, Natalie. I bought this hotel because it was a good investment. You chose to have your party here, and you chose to put me on a list. The word list landed hard. I saw several guests exchange confused glances. Eleanor Harrington rose from the head table and began walking toward us. Her stride was measured, deliberate, the walk of a woman who hadn't hurried in decades because the world waited for her. I'm sorry. Her voice cut through the murmurs. Did I understand correctly? You own this hotel. Every eye in the room turned to me. Yes, Mrs. Harrington. I met her gaze steadily along with 3 others. The silence that followed was deafening. Eleanor Harrington had the kind of face that revealed nothing unless she wanted it to. Right now, she wanted it to reveal disappointment. Victoria, her voice was silk over steel. You told me your family was modest. You said Pamela was struggling. Finding yourself, I believe, were your exact words. My mother's composure crumbled. I didn't know. You didn't know your own daughter owned one of the most prestigious boutique hotels in the city? Eleanor's eyebrow arched a millimeter, along with 3 others apparently. She never told us. I find that difficult to believe. Eleanor turned too, studying me with new eyes. The Sterling has been featured in Architectural Digest twice. The acquisition was covered in the business section of the Tribune. Murmurs swept through the crowd. Several guests were now openly on their phones, presumably searching for verification. Natalie stepped forward, desperate. This doesn't change anything. She probably inherited the money or married into it. I didn't inherit anything. I kept my voice even. And my ex-husband is a middle school teacher. I built this business myself, starting with a 10-room bed and breakfast 8 years ago. Impressive. Eleanor's tone suggested this was not a casual compliment. She turned to Bradley. You told me you'd done due diligence on the family. Bradley's face had gone ashen. Natalie said she told me her sister was what? I asked quietly. He couldn't. Meet my eyes. Eleanor turned back to Victoria. Let me understand this correctly. Your daughter, this daughter, is a successful business owner, and you had her directed to the service entrance of her own property? Victoria opened her mouth, closed. Perhaps, Eleanor said, her voice carrying effortlessly. We need to have a conversation about due diligence. She wasn't talking to Victoria anymore. She was talking to Bradley. Prove it. Natalie's voice was ragged now, stripped of its earlier polish. Anyone can claim to own something. Show us proof. I don't need to prove anything to you, Natalie. Of course, you don't because you can't, because this is all actually. Eleanor Harrington cut through like a scalpel. I would appreciate verification. This is quite a significant revelation, and given the circumstances, she let the implication hang. Daniel materialized beside me. I hadn't seen him approach. I happened to have the relevant documentation. His voice was crisp, professional. Daniel Webb, Miss Sears' attorney. I thought it might be prudent to bring copies tonight, given the unusual guest access arrangements. He produced a leather folder from his jacket. Inside were several documents, the acquisition paperwork, the deed transfer, the business registration. Eleanor took the folder. Her eyes scanned the pages with the practiced efficiency of someone who'd reviewed countless contracts. The crowd pressed closer, straining to see. The Sterling Hotel, Eleanor read aloud, her voice carrying, acquired 6 months ago. Full ownership transferred to Pamela Catherine Surd. No outstanding debt, no partners, sole proprietor. She looked up, fixing my mother with a gaze that could have frozen champagne. And you had her use the service entrance. Victoria had shrunk somehow, her earlier grandeur deflating. Beside her, Natalie looked like she might be sick. I didn't know, Victoria. Whispered. How could I have known? By asking, I said quietly. By calling. By being interested in my life, even once in the past decade. The words weren't angry. They weren't bitter. They were just true. And somehow that made them worse. Elena returned the folder to Daniel. Her decision apparently made. She turned to Bradley without another word. We need to talk now. All right, we're at the climax now. Before I tell you what I did next, I have a question. If you were in my position, would you forgive your family or would you set a permanent boundary? Comment forgive or boundary. I want to know what you would do. And if you haven't already, hit like so more people can see this story. Now, back to the party. Eleanor led Bradley to a quiet corner. Their heads bent together in urgent conversation. Around us, the party had fractured. Some guests pretended to resume normal conversations, stealing glances our way. Others made no pretense at all, watching openly like spectators at a tennis match. My mother grabbed my arm. Pamela, please. Her voice had lost all its earlier authority. You're embarrassing us. Stop this. I gently removed her hand. No, Mom. You embarrassed yourselves. I just showed up. So what now? Natalie's mascara was starting to smudge, her perfect facade cracking. You're going to cancel the party, ruin my engagement out of spite? I'm not going to do anything, Natalie. I kept my voice steady. The party will continue. Your engagement is your business, not mine. Victoria stared at me bewildered. Then what do you want? What is this about? The question hung in the air. What did I want? Not revenge. Revenge would mean I still cared about their opinion, not an apology. Words wouldn't undo 30 years of dismissal. I want you to understand something. I looked at them both. My mother, my sister, the family that had never seen me. I'm not here to prove I'm better than you. I'm here because you thought I was less. And I'm done accepting that. Pamela, Victoria started. I'm not angry, Mom. I'm just done pretending. I paused, choosing my next words carefully. You put me on a blacklist at my own sister's party, at my own hotel, and you smiled when security turned me away. Her face crumpled. When you're ready to have a real conversation about why you've treated me differently for 30 years, I'll be here, but I won't be invisible anymore. For once, neither of them had a response. Eleanor Harrington returned from her corner conference. Bradley trailed behind her, his expression that of a man who had just received very bad news. Natalie, his voice was strained. We need to talk. Later in private, Bradley, whatever she told you later. The single word silenced her. Eleanor approached my mother with the gracious smile of someone delivering a death blow. Mrs. Surd, this has been a most illuminating evening, Victoria attempted to rally. Mrs. Harrington, I assure you, this changes nothing about Natalie and Bradley's relationship. I'm afraid that's not your decision to make. Eleanor's smile never wavered. It seems we were given a complete picture of your family. I hope you understand that we'll need to have some longer conversations with Bradley about his choices. What does that mean? It means exactly what I said. Eleanor's gaze was pleasant and utterly merciless. We Harringtons are thorough people. We don't make major decisions based on partial information. Victoria's face drained of color. Eleanor turned to me, her expression shifted, subtle but distinct. The dismissal was gone. In its place was something like recognition. Miss Surd, I apologize for any misunderstanding tonight. She produced a card from her clutch. If you're ever interested in discussing business or simply having lunch, I'd welcome the opportunity. I took the card. Thank you, Mrs. Harrington. Please call me Eleanor. She leaned closer, lowering her voice. I always prefer to know who the interesting people in a room are. It seems I was looking in the wrong direction. With that, she glided away to collect her husband. Natalie stood frozen, watching her future mother-in-law retreat. The engagement wasn't canceled, but something had changed permanently, and everyone in that room knew it. I found Daniel near the bar. He raised an eyebrow. "You okay?" "I think so." He shook his head, almost laughing. "I've seen Courtroom. Drama Pam, but that was something else. I'm going to go." I glanced around the ballroom. The energy had shifted. Nervous laughter, hurried whispers, guests making excuses to leave early. I've said what I needed to say. Want company? No, I need the walk. I made my way toward my mother and sister one last time. They stood together near a pillar, isolated, no guests nearby. People had started giving them space. "I'm leaving now," I said. Victoria looked up. Her eyes were red-rimmed. "Pamela, not because I'm running, because I said what I needed to say." "I didn't." She started again. "I just wanted Natalie to shine. I wanted the Harringtons to be impressed. I was trying to help her. I know, Mom." My voice was gentle but firm. "But you didn't have to dim my light to make Natalie shine." The words landed. I saw them hit. Natalie said nothing. For once, she had no clever response, no deflection, no attack. She just stood there, mascara streaked and silent. I turned and walked toward the main entrance. The front door, the one I'd been denied hours earlier, no one stopped me. The staff I passed gave small nods of acknowledgement. A doorman held the entrance open, a gesture of respect. "Good evening, Miss Seward." "Good evening, Thomas." I stepped out into the night. The air was cool, clean, a relief after the suffocating tension of the ballroom. I stood on the sidewalk for a moment, breathing, then I started walking. Behind me, the party continued without me. But for the first time, I wasn't invisible. I was free. I woke to 12 missed calls from my mother. I didn't listen to the voicemails. I already knew what they would say. Some combination of accusation, justification, and manufactured victimhood, the sewer specialty. My phone buzzed with a text from Natalie, then another, then a third. The first, "How could you do this to me?" The second, an hour later, "We need to talk." The third sent at 3 a.m. nothing. Just 3 dots that appeared and disappeared. She'd started typing something and given up. Daniel called at 10 with the update I'd been expecting. The Harringtons had a family meeting this morning. He said, my contact at their law firm heard Bradley was there for 3 hours. The engagement's still on for now. A pause, but the prenuptial agreement is being completely revised. Apparently, Eleanor wasn't pleased with how things were represented. I poured myself coffee, watching the steam rise. What does revised mean? It means Natalie no longer has the same access to Harrington assets that she was promised. They're adding contingencies, lots of them. I should have felt satisfied. Instead, I just felt tired. "There's something else," Daniel continued. 3 guests from the party have contacted the Sterling this morning. They want to book events, really? Apparently, watching you handle that situation impressed some people. One woman said, and I quote, "Anyone who can stay that composed under that kind of pressure is someone I want to do business with." I almost laughed. My family had tried to humiliate me, and instead they'd advertised my professionalism to 200. Potential clients, "Pam, you still there?" "Yeah, I sat down my coffee, just processing." "You did good last night." "You know that, right?" "I know." But knowing didn't make my mother's 12 missed calls disappear. On the 13th call, I answered, "Pamela." My mother's voice was like she'd been crying or yelling, possibly both. Finally, "I've been trying to reach you all morning." "I know, you've ruined everything." The words tumbled out in a rush. The Harringtons are questioning the wedding. They're changing the prenuptial. Eleanor barely looked at Natalie this morning. They're talking about reassessing the relationship. I didn't ruin anything. Mom, don't give me that. You planned this. You bought that hotel knowing Natalie what I didn't plan anything. I bought the hotel because it was a good investment. Natalie chose to have her party there. Natalie chose to put my name on a blacklist. They chose to watch me get turned away and smile. I kept my voice steady. I just existed. Silence on the other end. You should have told us. She finally said, "We're your family." Family asks. Mom, family includes. Family doesn't put you on a list with instructions to use the service entrance. More silence. I could hear her breathing. Could almost see her struggling to find a response. "I didn't know you were successful," she said quietly. "You never said, you never asked, not once in 8 years." Every conversation was about Natalie, every holiday, every phone call. And when I did try to share something, you changed the subject. "That's not," she stopped. "I'm not angry," I said. And I meant it. I'm just done pretending, done shrinking myself, done hoping you'll finally see me. Pamela, when you're ready to have a real conversation about why you've treated me differently. For 30 years, I'll be here. But I won't be invisible anymore, not for you, not for anyone. I hung up before she could respond. My hands were shaking, but my voice had been steady. That was enough. 2 weeks later, I received the news through Daniel. "The wedding's still happening," he said, "but they've changed venues." The Harringtons apparently didn't want to hold it at the Sterling. Too many memories. Too many reminders of the night they realized their future daughter-in-law wasn't exactly who she claimed to be. I was in my office at the new property, a converted warehouse I was developing into a boutique hotel in the Arts District. Plans spread across my desk, a contractor waiting in the lobby. The prenup? I asked, significantly revised. Natalie doesn't get access to Harrington family assets unless the marriage lasts at least 7 years. Even then, it's limited. I thought about my sister who'd spent her entire life optimizing for the perfect catch. Now she'd landed her prize, but the terms had changed entirely. She's still marrying him. Apparently, Bradley seems committed, though his mother is making him attend family alignment sessions before the ceremony. Daniel paused. I'm not sure what those are, but they sound unpleasant. I almost felt sorry for Natalie. Almost. What about my mother? No word, but he hesitated. "A letter came to the hotel this morning addressed to you. I had Marcus forward it. The envelope arrived an hour later. My mother's handwriting, careful, precise, the penmanship of someone who'd taken pride. In proper correspondence. Inside a single page. Pamela, I don't understand why you had to do what you did. Part of me thinks you enjoyed embarrassing us, but I also know I haven't been fair. I'm trying to understand why it's not easy. I'm not ready to talk yet, but I wanted you to know I'm thinking. Mom, not an apology, not really, but it was something." I put the letter in my desk drawer and went back to work. 3 months later, I sat in my office at the Sterling, watching the sun set over the city. The new property was nearly ready for its soft opening. We'd booked 6 events for the first quarter. One of them, ironically, was for a client I'd met at Natalie's engagement party. A woman who'd watched the entire confrontation and apparently decided I was exactly the kind of businesswoman she wanted to work with. Strange how things work out. I thought about that night a lot, not the confrontation itself. That memory was sharp, but fading like a photograph left in sunlight. What I thought about was the moment before. The moment I decided not to hide. For 10 years, I'd built my business in silence. Not because I was ashamed, but because I'd learned early that my accomplishments didn't matter to my family. They'd already decided who I was. Nothing I achieved would change that. So I stopped trying. The reveal at the party wasn't about proving them wrong. It wasn't about revenge or humiliation or even justice. It was about refusing to be invisible. That's the lesson, I think. The one it took me 34 years to learn. You can spend your whole life trying to earn the approval of people who will never give it. Shrinking yourself to fit the space they've allotted you, hoping that one day, if you're successful enough, good enough, they'll finally see you. Or you can stop. You can stop performing for an audience that isn't watching. You can build something real for yourself by yourself. And when they finally look up, if they ever look up, you can simply say, I was here all along. You just weren't paying attention. That's not revenge. That's just truth. And sometimes truth is more powerful than any revenge could ever be. Spring came early that year. I signed the papers on my fifth property in March, a historic in upstate, not far from where I'd bought my first bed and breakfast 8 years ago. Full circle in a way. Natalie's wedding happened in April. I wasn't invited. I wasn't surprised, but Bradley sent me an email the week before. Pamela, I want to apologize for how things went at the engagement party. I should have said something when Natalie made those arrangements. I didn't, and I'm sorry. Natalie is processing. She's embarrassed, though she'd never admit it. Give her time. For what it's worth, I think what you've built is impressive. Eleanor brings it up at least once a week. I hope you and Natalie can talk someday. Best, Bradley. I didn't reply, but I saved the email. Saved that my mother called once a month now. The conversations were short, awkward, full of silences neither of us knew how to fill, but she was trying in her own way. Last week, she asked about the new property. First time she'd ever asked about my business, the historic inn, I said. We're restoring the original Victorian details. Should be ready by fall. That sounds a pause. That sounds lovely, Pamela. Not praise exactly, but acknowledgement. It wasn't much, but it was more than I'd had before. I don't hate them. My mother, my sister, the family that spent 30 years looking for me, I just don't need them to see me anymore. I see myself, and that's enough. It took me a long time to understand that, to really feel it, not just say it, but I do now. I'm not the invisible daughter anymore. I'm just Kemma Third, and I'm exactly who I chose to be. If you're watching this and you've ever felt invisible in your own family, I see you. I know what it's like to walk into a room full of relatives and feel like you're behind glass, present but untouchable. I know what it's like to achieve something extraordinary and have no one notice. I know what it's like to wait your whole life for someone to finally look up and say, I'm proud of you. I also know that you might be waiting forever. Setting boundaries isn't about revenge. It isn't about making people feel bad or proving that you're better than them. It's about respect for yourself. You don't have to be loud to be heard. You don't have to be dramatic to make a point. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply stop hiding. Show up as yourself. Speak your truth calmly and let the people around you decide how they want to respond. Some of them won't like it. Some of them will call you dramatic or vindictive or ungrateful. That's their problem, not yours. Your worth isn't determined by people who refuse to see it. Read that again. Your worth isn't determined by people who refuse to see it. Not by the mother who overlooked you. Not by the sibling who dismissed you. Not by the family that made you feel like you were less. You are not less. You never were. This is Pamela. Sir, and I'm no longer the invisible daughter. Thank you for staying until the end. If my story resonated with you, please leave a comment sharing your experience. Have you ever had to set boundaries with family? How did it go? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next story. I have more family drama stories coming, some even wilder than this one. Check the description for links to similar stories. I'll see you in the next.